She was halfway through her shift, standing at the register with her lips pale and her fingers trembling slightly as she counted out change for a customer, when I noticed something that stopped me cold. She slipped a folded paper bag from under the counter into her purse, not food for herself, but formula packets, carefully wrapped in napkins as if hiding treasure. She didn't eat during her break. Instead, she poured weak coffee from the employee machine into a paper cup, pretending it was enough. I only knew the truth because I followed her when she slipped to the back alley behind the store, sat on an overturned crate, and pulled out a tiny plastic bottle. She shook it with shaking hands, tested it on her wrist, and then, with eyes darting left and right, she fed her baby who had been swaddled in a thin, faded blanket inside a stroller that looked like it belonged to another decade. Right then, I knew I wasn't just an ordinary customer. I was the CEO who owned this very supermarket chain, and something in me refused to stay silent. Her name tag read Maya. She was young, maybe 24, though her tired face and untidy bun added years. Her jeans were worn at the knees, her sneakers patched with duct tape, and her once white hoodie carried stains that told stories of hurried mornings. But her eyes, brown, steady, quietly defiant, carried dignity. I lingered by the alley door, pretending to check my phone, and I heard her whisper to the baby, "I'm sorry, Noah. Mommy's not hungry, okay? You eat first." Her lips brushed the infant's forehead, trembling as if she were swallowing back tears. Inside the store, aisles gleamed under fluorescent lights. Shiny carts rattled past, baskets filled with organic fruits, expensive wine, pastries tucked into glossy bags. The contrast made my throat tighten. How could abundance hum like a song just steps away, while outside, on a cold metal crate, a young mother rationed baby formula like contraband? Later, when she clocked back in, I approached her register casually. She smiled at the next customer, lips pressed thin with effort, her voice polite but drained. I bought a pack of gum just to hear her tone. "That'll be $1.09, she said. Her eyes flickered up to mine, guarded, like she didn't want pity, but expected it. I gave her exact change and walked away, but my mind didn't. At the 2-hour mark, I hooked myself to curiosity. Why was a young woman skipping meals in my store? I decided not to reveal who I was. Instead, I lingered near the manager's office, listening. The manager, a man in his 40s with pressed khakis, was muttering about cutting hours. "If she keeps asking for shifts off, I'll have to let her go," he said. My stomach sank. That evening, I followed discreetly when Maya left. She pushed the stroller toward a bus stop. It was drizzling now, the city lit with neon, reflections rippling in puddles. She counted coins in her palm before feeding them into the bus fare slot, her other hand rocking the stroller with rhythmic patience. When she sat, she leaned her head against the foggy window, eyes closing for a moment of stolen rest. I got off at the same stop, a few blocks from a crumbling apartment building. Paint peeled from the door frames, and an eviction notice curled on one of the entrances. Meyer unlocked a basement unit with shaky fingers. Through a small window, I could see her kitchen light flicker weakly. Inside, she set the baby down and opened the fridge. My heart clenched. The shelves held almost nothing. A half-empty carton of milk, a jar of pickles, 2 slices of bread in a crumpled bag. She took a deep breath, shoulders rising, then pulled out the bread, toasted it over the stove flame because the toaster sat broken on the counter. She sat at the table with the crust, but didn't eat. She dipped it into warm water and gave it to the baby in tiny pieces. The baby giggled, unaware of the sacrifice. Maya's eyes shone, but her lips pressed together, holding her dignity even in hunger. Something in me warred, should I reveal who I was? Or would that feel like pity, like intrusion? I stayed hidden in the shadows of the street, watching through the small basement window, until she pulled the curtains closed. The next day, I returned to the store. She looked paler, and when she bent to scan an item, her knees trembled. She straightened quickly, forcing composure, but her hands gripped the counter too tightly. During her break, she slipped out again, this time with only a small paper bag of crackers. She ate none. Instead, she crushed them into powder and mixed them with warm water for her child in the alley. I finally stepped forward, my breath quickening. "You're not eating," I said softly. She froze, eyes darting toward me, then narrowed. "Who are you?" she demanded, clutching the stroller handle tighter. I hesitated. "Just someone who noticed." Her throat tightened, lips parting as if she wanted to speak but couldn't. She shook her head, biting her lip until it turned white, and turned away. "Don't," she whispered, voice breaking. "Please don't see me like this." I stood there, caught between the power of what I carried, the authority of my position, and the fragility of her pride. The baby whimpered softly, and Maya lifted him, pressing him to her chest, rocking with a trembling rhythm. That was the moment I knew something had to break, either her silence or mine. I didn't sleep that night. The image of her in the alley, clutching her child and whispering, "Don't see me like this," clung to me like smoke in my lungs. I was the head of a company that sold food, aisles upon aisles of it, and yet a woman under my roof was starving herself to keep her baby alive. I decided the next morning that I could no longer be a ghost in her story. When I walked into the store, Maya was at her register again, hair tied back, dark circles beneath her eyes faintly concealed by a hurried sweep of drugstore powder. She greeted customers with that same polite resilience, though her voice cracked once when she said, "Have a good day." I approached the counter, this time without disguise. My suit was pressed, my shoes polished to a mirror shine. When she saw me, her eyes narrowed slightly, as though she sensed a difference. "Hi, Maya," I said, letting her name settle between us. Her posture stiffened. "Do I know you?" I smiled gently, but there was weight in my words. "I know you work hard here. I also know what you've been giving up." Her lips parted, and color rushed to her cheeks. She shook her head furiously. "Please," she whispered, "don't do this in front of people." She scanned the gum I'd tossed on the counter with hands that trembled. I leaned closer, lowering my voice. "I'm not here to embarrass you, but you should know, I own this store. In fact, I own this entire chain." Her scanning hand froze mid-motion. She looked up, stunned, the scanner's red light still blinking against the gum package. "You're joking." "I'm not." My tone was steady, stripped of pretense. "And I need to talk to you when you're off." She inhaled sharply, chest rising under the worn hoodie. For a second her eyes softened, then hardened again. "Why to pity me, to fire me quietly so I don't bring down your store image?" The words pierced. Her defense was sharp, but I didn't flinch. "To listen," I said simply. Hours later, we sat in a small cafe across the street, a place with steamed windows and the smell of cinnamon rolls in the air. She held her baby against her chest in a sling, rocking him absently, as if protecting him from more than just hunger. She didn't order anything. I pushed a cup of tea toward her. She shook her head. "Just drink," I urged softly. "Please." Her fingers brushed the cup finally, nails bitten down, skin dry from dish soap. She stared into the steam. "I don't want charity," she murmured. "I just want hours. Enough hours to pay rent, to keep formula in the cupboard. That's it." I felt something twist in my chest. "What happened?" Her lips trembled, and for a long moment she was silent. Then words spilled out, halting at first, then flowing like water through cracks. Her husband had died in a construction accident when she was pregnant. No insurance, no savings. Her family had scattered years ago, foster care, estranged relatives, nobody she could lean on. She worked when she could, but daycare cost more than her paycheck. Most days, she skipped meals to keep her son fed. She had an eviction notice pinned to her fridge like a silent countdown. I listened, every word sinking into me like nails. She didn't cry. She spoke with a quiet dignity that made her pain even sharper. When she finished, she exhaled shakily and looked at me with fierce eyes. "So now you know. Do what you want with it." I leaned forward, What I want is to change this for you and for people like you." She blinked, disbelieving. "What are you saying?" "I'm saying I can make sure you're not invisible anymore." I slid a card across the table, embossed with my name. "You'll get a full-time position, benefits, child care support, and not just you. I need to know who else on my floors is struggling like this, because I promise you, I'll fix it." Her eyes shimmered, but her jaw tightened. "And what if I don't want saving?" she whispered. I shook my head. "This isn't about saving. It's about giving you back what should have been yours all along. Dignity, choice, safety." The baby stirred, tiny fingers grasping her necklace. Maya looked down at him, then back at me, her lips trembling before curling into the smallest, most fragile smile. "He deserves better," she whispered. In that moment, I knew she had agreed. Weeks later, the store looked different. Not in the aisles or the lights, but in the way employees carried themselves. We had launched a quiet program: meal stipends for staff, child care vouchers, flexible scheduling, no press release, no cameras, just change. Maya worked full-time now, shoulders straighter, hair brushed with care, her baby in safe daycare. One afternoon, I saw her again on break, sitting in the same cafe, but this time there was food in front of her. A sandwich, a bowl of soup. She was eating while her baby napped in the stroller beside her, cheeks full and peaceful. She caught my eye through the window and raised her cup of tea in silent thanks. I lifted mine back, my chest warm in a way no quarterly report had ever given me, because I finally understood: profit is numbers, but impact is people. The moral is simple: one act of noticing, one choice to step closer instead of looking away, can reroute an entire life. We all have that power to see, to listen, to extend a hand. Sometimes the smallest gesture becomes the difference between despair and hope, hunger and dignity, survival and life.